Oh wait, nope. Okay, so it looks like we're live.
Okay, so we're live on YouTube right now.
Let me just get you onto the virtual camera, and I can do that. 1 second.
And you want me to? Yeah, you have to enable screen sharing so I can.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Participants. Do you know where you go to do that? It's just on some settings or view.
I'm not really sure. I don't use Zoom all that much.
I know I'm totally new to this, so let's see. Edit. Yeah, hang on. I'm gonna ask someone really quick.
Here, my mom's right here. She does Zoom meetings literally for her job.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
How do you enable screen sharing? Yeah, but she has to enable it.
It may be in the settings.
Maybe go to participants and then click my name. Can you enable it that way?
Yeah, okay, here we go. Multi-pin, make host. I think if I make you host, maybe it'll do it? Or, yeah.
Yeah, I think once it's on
okay.
host, I'll have permission to.
Do you have screen sharing privileges now?
Let's see, we do. Hold on, Can you see my screen or no?
Not yet.
Oh, let me share my screen. See, it says. Just move it. But it's not letting me click it. Wait, click the lock to make changes. Why is it? There we go. Oh, I have to quit and reopen, so I have to leave and then
go for it. Go for it.
Right back. Wait, I have to give you host privileges back, or else it'll.
Oh, no worries. Go for it.
How do I do that?
Go participants and then oh, here, reclaim host. Never mind. Go ahead.
Cool. All right, I'll be right back.
Perfect. All right. Do you need me to make you, let's see, is he on there? No.
All right, let's see if it works.
Okay. So let me make you host or co-host. All right.
Perfect. There we go.
Hey, look at that.
Cool. All right. So you can see the herpetology, all that?
Yes, we can.
And we're live? We're good to go?
We're live. We're good to go. I'm just going to change the window a little bit so I can get you and your slideshow on there on the YouTube channel, and then whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So this is herpetology, the study of reptiles and amphibians. the cover here is Eastern glass lizard. We'll cover glass lizards a little more, but I'll go ahead and start with a quick introduction. Oh, there we go. So yeah, I'm Parker Gibbons. I'm 19 years old. I currently work at a preserve doing a assessment of all the reptiles and amphibians on the property. I've been into herps my entire life, and that is thanks to this guy. My grandfather, Whit Gibbons, is a retired herpetologist he's published over 10 books about reptiles and amphibians and over 200 publications about reptiles and amphibians. And growing up, he would always bring snakes, alligators, whatever, home from work. And so I was introduced to it at a very young age. And the first bit of field work I ever got to do was with him, and we still do it to this day. Surveying for diamondback terrapins. Surveying started in 1983. It's the only turtle that lives its entire life in the salt marsh. They're found from Texas to Massachusetts and broken up over 7 subspecies. Their populations have been declining due to crab traps and destruction of nesting sites. But to catch these turtles, we drag these big seine nets through the water. And once there's 2 more nets on the south side of this creek, and we sandwich towards each other and then pull up on the big sandbar. And whatever we catch, we bring back to the dock, and we process them there. So processing consists of measuring, weighing. We give them an exam, see if there's any injuries. A lot of the times they'll be missing limbs. There was one turtle that we caught almost every year for 5 years or so that only had 1 leg, and he still thrived.
That's crazy.
They're super resilient animals. And so before we release them, we give each turtle an individual mark. And they have 24 scutes on the carapace, and then there's 2 scutes on the plastron here. So there's 26. Each one can correlate to a letter. So each turtle will have its own code. This guy would be A, B, and then whatever the other marks he has. So another turtle, did not mean to do that. Another turtle that I've gotten to work with are the soft-shell turtles. So it's hard to tell here on the left, but the top left here, that turtle is only about the size of a quarter. He's super tiny. But these are one of the fastest turtles. They zoom in the water. Hatchlings, you can kind of see there, they have it's called an egg tooth, and they use that to break through the eggshell.
Okay.
And that'll fall off shortly after. And so, unlike the terrapins and other hard-shelled turtles, we can't notch their shell because there isn't a shell to notch, so we tattoo them. And they're given a number on the underside. And if they're too small for a tattoo, we give them a pit tag, and that's what she's doing here. She holds them on their side so their organs kind of go down, so you don't have to worry about hitting any vital organs, and then give them a little pit tag. So a couple other turtles that I've been able to snorkel with. This is a Florida red-bellied cooter in the Florida Springs. If you ever have the chance to visit the Florida Springs, highly recommend it. It's surreal. You put your head underwater. It's a whole different world.
Yeah, that looks amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So the last turtle I'm going to cover is the biggest turtle in the U.S., the alligator snapping turtle. They reach up to 200 pounds. The guy in this photo, he's 150 pounds. They're sit-and wait predators, so they just sit there with their mouth open. They have a little pink tongue that they kind of shake back and forth, and fish will come thinking it's a worm, and they slam their mouth shut. And yeah, the turtles in the western drainages, they're the ones that do the lure with their tongue, and they eat fish. And the turtles in the eastern drainages pretty much strictly eat mollusks and clams. So they have really thick heads from just crushing those clams up. So,
Did I see a picture of you swimming with one of those on your Instagram, like holding on to the shell?
yeah, I think that was a common snapping turtle. So there's alligator snapping turtles and common snapping turtles. Alligator snapping turtles get much bigger. Common snappers could probably hit just over 50 pounds, but on average, 20 to 30 is a big one. And common snapping turtles have a smooth shell and then a really rough tail. And alligator snapping turtles have a rough shell and a really smooth tail. So it's kind of backwards.
Okay. What's the range for the alligator versus the common?
So common snapping turtles they go all the way from South Florida to Canada.
Wow.
And then they go farther west to there's non-native populations of common snapping turtles in like California and I think even in Arizona. So,
Huh.
but yeah, the alligator snapping turtles are really restricted to their range. They only live in rivers. So, yeah. Um, Next, we'll move to snakes. This is what I think the prettiest snakes in the U.S. The mud and rainbow snakes. Um, So these guys have very similar habits. They both live most of their time in and around the water. The mud snake eats. Let's see. Sorry. So they have a really sharp tail, and they use that tail to hold on to amphiumas. An amphibia is a salamander. Rainbow snakes also have that tail, and their preferred food are eels, American eels. They also use that tail to subdue them. Um, yeah, rainbow snakes are pretty restricted to streams and river habitats because they have to have eels, and eels come and go from the Sargasso Sea. So it has to be in water that eventually connects to the ocean. Mud snakes are a little more habitat generalist, and they have a much larger range. They go all the way to Texas and as far north as Illinois. So
Oh, that's wild. I had no idea there's a population of American snakes that like relied on eels. That's
yeah,
crazy.
exactly. It's pretty cool. And they're super secretive. They're really hard to find. I've only ever seen I think 4 rainbow snakes. I've seen a few more mud snakes, but rainbows are extremely secretive, and they're beautiful snakes as you can see.
Yeah, what a crazy pattern. And that's just, is
Yeah,
that the
it's
bottom of
crazy
the
that
snake?
a snake that spends pretty much all of its time up under the mud is just that vibrant.
Huh.
So,
Do you know why they do that? Is it like a breeding thing or
no,
yeah.
I don't know
Huh.
the answer to that. There's been theories. A lot of aquatic snakes have vibrant bellies. There's red-bellied water snakes, which are bright red. There's black swamp snakes, which are also bright red. And there's been theories like uh, if a predator comes and grabs you on top, you're black, right? They show the red and then flip over, and the predator's looking for something red, and then you can get away.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of theories about it, but I don't think anyone really knows the real answer why they're so vibrant.
Yeah, those are amazing.
Next is the eastern diamondback rattlesnake. This is the most venomous snake in the United States. Well, I should say most dangerous snake. The most venomous is the Mojave rattlesnake in Arizona and California and out west. Um, but these are more dangerous because they can put out way more venom. Drop for drop, Mojaves are more dangerous potency wise, but because Diamondbacks have such big heads, they can just put out so much more venom, and they have a much higher venom yield. Um, so the one on the right here, her name's Ruby. She's a snake I had the pleasure of tracking last year. She had a radio transmitter, and we walk around with an antenna and a receiver, and walk around. And it beeps when we're pointing towards her. So we narrow down where she is, and in this photo you can see she's really fat,
Okay,
and
I
that's
just have
because
to know, how do you put a radio transmitter on a snake?
so with rattlesnakes you can attach it to their rattle on the outside with like epoxy. But with other snakes that don't have a rattle, you have to surgically implant them. And Ruby, she has a implant and an external. So if one fails, we have a backup. Um, it is a process to do the surgical implant, but yeah, it's a lot cheaper and easier to do external transmitters. Um, Yeah, so she's really fat in that, and that's because she's gravid. And a couple weeks after that photo is when we came across this, which is one of her 7 babies that we got to see, and that was the first time in the span of this study that a diamondback they had tagged gave birth, which was pretty cool.
Do they give live birth or do they lay eggs?
They give live birth. So some snakes are oviparate. That's a hard word to pronounce. Some snakes give live birth. Some lay eggs. All the pit vipers in the United States give live birth. And then the only venomous snake in the U.S. that does are coral snakes, and those lay eggs. So, but a lot of non-venomous snakes also lay eggs.
That's wild. So rattlesnakes are technically a viper?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, rattlesnakes, cottonmouths, they're pit vipers. So.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. And that's because they have these heat-sensing pits, and you can see right there.
Okay, that's really cool.
Pit vipers. And you can see cottonmouths, another species of pit viper. They also have that same. You can see it a lot better in this photo. So everyone has their cottonmouth story about being chased by a cottonmouth, and that's, just not true. Cottonmouth's going to do one of three things when you walk up to it. It's either going to pretend you aren't there and just not move. It might do as the guy in the top right's doing, open its mouth and shake its tail, or it's going to try and flee. And sometimes when it tries and flees, it's trying to go somewhere. So let's say you're here, the snake's here, and water's here, or a stump, or somewhere he's trying to go. He doesn't care about you. He's going to go right past you. And sometimes when someone's standing there and a snake starts coming towards them, they're going to run. But if you just stand there, he's going to go right past you. Like, he's not coming towards you. He's just going the same direction as you. And that's where a lot of those myths come from. So one question that wasn't able to be answered until recently about cottonmouths is, do they bite underwater? And yes. And how do I know that?
Oh, no.
I was bit by a cottonmouth underwater in 2019 on September 21st. We found this cottonmouth on the side of this little pond. Me and my buddy were photographing it, and it went into the pond. And we decided it was a real small pond, so we figured it would come back out. And we waited for about 15, 20 minutes, and it never showed itself. So we got ready to leave, and as we were leaving, I spotted a banded water snake. So I hopped in the water to catch a banded water snake. It's like a dog seeing a squirrel, like, snake. So I hopped in, I stepped right on the cottonmouth, and it bit me right on my ankle. I knew that it was probably the cottonmouth. I knew there was a water snake and a cottonmouth in the water, so I wasn't completely positive which one bit me at the time. So I got up, I called my dad, and we were about a half mile into the woods, and we started walking towards the entrance of the trail. And about 3 minutes into walking, it just felt like a hot knife, just like stabbing my ankle. And I'd like dropped to my knees, and my buddy had to like carry me out basically. And luckily we were like 5 minutes from the hospital. We got there, and I was in the hospital for 3 days, and then on crutches for 5 days. I had 4 vials of antivenom, but I ended up making a full recovery. So, and yes, Earth, Wind, and Fire, I do remember the 21st night of September. All right. So we'll move off snakes and into lizards, even though this looks like a snake, right? This is the glass lizards. The slender glass lizard is the longest lizard in South Carolina. You might be asking yourself, like, how is that a lizard? Like, it looks like a snake. And as you can see, there it has an ear opening. Snakes don't have ear openings. It can also regenerate its tail. Snakes can't do that. And lastly, they have eyelids, unlike snakes. So they are just simply legless lizards. They're one of the 4 species. The cover photo at the very beginning of the presentation was the eastern glass lizard, which is the most common of the 4 species. There's also mimic glass lizard and island glass lizard. And then there's a California legless lizard, which is in a different genus. So, but yeah, those are our glass lizards. Let's see. And next, we got alligators. Alligators are adorable little animals.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
So they get up to 15 feet, males do. Females are a little smaller, about 10 to 12 feet max. This alligator here came from a pond. They were having issues with alligators being a little too friendly with people. People would be fishing on the bank. The alligators would come up and say, hey, I mean, you're pulling up their favorite food right in front of them. They're going to come and check it out, right? So what we did, we went and we caught an alligator for two reasons. One reason we were able to get a lot of valuable data from it, get blood samples, and that's what we're doing here, taking measurement data and a bunch of different stuff, scoop clips, stuff like that. But also, once we release that alligator, it's going to be terrified of people. It is not going to come up to someone fishing on the bank. So it's a very stressful thing to pull up an alligator like that, but it does a lot more good than it does bad, because then we don't have to worry about it messing with people, and then in turn, if an alligator takes a dog or something, it has to get euthanized. So keeping them scared of people is always the best bet.
Yeah, I kept seeing signs all over South Carolina that said a fed gator is a dead gator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, those are
that's
everywhere.
crazy. I recently listened to a podcast where they were talking about monitoring alligators and looking at bioaccumulation of toxins in the tail, since people do eat them. They're trying to figure out, like, is that something that we should be worried about as far as like
I'm
people?
guessing you listen to the Ologies podcast, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's my friend Laura Kojima who did that. So
Nice. Yeah, I figured you knew about that, but
yeah.
yeah. Were you part of that study at all, or?
No, I've been out to that study site, but I didn't help out with the study itself.
Yeah.
I have done that. This hatchling alligator was caught with the same biologist you're talking about. Um, but yeah, I haven't gotten to do like trapping for alligators. We've just done catching, like this guy we caught with a fishing rod. You catch them in the back of the tail. It seems rough, but it's not. You hook them. They're really fatty in the tail, so you can hook them there. We use hooks that the barbs are crushed down, so we don't have to worry about hurting the alligator at all. It's just
Right.
a quick thing, and we get them right up to the bank, and then we noose them, and then it's hands on from there.
Oh,
So,
that's crazy. You
all
ever get a
right.
good crowd for gator wrestling for research stuff? Or is it just too out in the middle of nowhere?
So I recently got to work on the set of the Netflix show Outer Banks as a gator wrangler. That was my position.
That is so cool. I will look for you in the end credits.
Yeah, I think I will be, which is going to be pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
all right, well let's keep moving. We'll move on to amphibians. This is the barking tree frog. It's the largest native tree frog of the United States, and it's the only tree frog known to emit an odor. It's one of three frogs in the U.S. known to do that, which is the mink frog and the spadefoot toad. Um, and it's a pretty foul odor, and that wasn't recorded until 2 years back. And one of the publication used one of my observations of the barking tree frog smelling. So
What does it smell like?
really bad. That's all. That's the only way I can describe it. Like, it's just a really foul smell.
Is that just
Uh,
something they do when they're startled to evade
yeah,
predation?
they don't always smell. It's a defensive thing. You kind of have to harass them a little bit to make them do it. But spadefoot toads, now they smell exactly like peanut butter, which yeah, it's crazy. The first time I smelled it, like it's unreal. It smells exactly like peanut butter.
Okay, I want to go find one of those now.
Yeah. All right, so now we'll move on to the salamanders. This is the biggest salamander in the United States, the hellbender.
Is it true that
Uh,
people call them snot otters?
of course, yeah, snot otter, Allegheny alligator, lasagna lizard. That's my personal favorite. But yeah, these guys live in Rocky Mountain streams. They eat crawfish and fish. Um, they absorb oxygen through their skin. These flaps in their skin is where they absorb the oxygen. Most salamanders do have lungs. There are a lot of lungless salamanders, including these guys. Um, yeah, so that's the largest salamander. Now move to the smallest salamander. This is about, I don't know, 2 centimeters long. It's called the Chamberlain's dwarf salamander. They have a really spotty range throughout South Carolina and North Carolina. Um, and yeah, they're super tiny. One of the only ways you can find them is you find these big mats of sphagnum moss, and you pull up the moss, and you'll see them sitting under the moss. And yeah, they're super little dainty guys. So
Oh, they're super cute.
yeah, they are. All right, well that's all I have. If anyone has any questions.
Yeah, well, let's see what comes up in the chat. If anyone's got questions, now's the time to ask them, and then maybe we could flip back through and do some little drawings and stuff from some of those pictures, and maybe talk about like how to label that
If
stuff with
anyone has like
different.
any photos they want me to show, I can go back to those.
Yeah, well, let's see. What I can do is I can bring the window down and then, um, let's see. Is that gonna work? No, it's not. Here we go. If I reduce the window a little bit, I can get that up there and then get my sketchbook down here so we can talk about how to draw these guys a little bit. So, is that a skink? Oh, okay,
It
hang on.
is. Yeah, that is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is a broadhead skink. So there's 3 species of skink that look pretty much identical to that.
Okay.
The only way to tell the difference is by counting the labial scales. So you can see he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how you know it's a broadhead skink.
So
Five
which
line
ones
skinks only
are
have
the
4.
labial scales?
Can you see my cursor?
Yes, okay.
So these right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then
Okay.
5. And so 5 line skinks and southeastern 5 line skinks only have 4 of those. And then to tell the difference between 5 line and southeastern 5 line, you have to look at the scales on the underneath of the tail. And broadhead skinks and 5 line skinks, there's a middle row of enlarged scales, while southeastern 5 line skinks, all the scales are the same size. So yeah, it's pretty difficult to identify them, and you have to resort to scalation on them. So
That's amazing. So we've got a question. Jasmine wants to know, can you save a desiccated salamander or is it already doomed to die?
a desiccated salamander?
Yeah,
I don't really understand what the question's asking there.
let's see. I'm gonna ask for a little clarification. Yeah, desiccated. Uh, I don't know. So I guess, I mean, I know that there's a lot of salamanders and stuff that get run over trying to cross roads and stuff while they're breeding. So would that be like if they're injured or missing a limb or torn up from that, could that be
So
something
the
that they
one
can
good
recover
thing,
from?
salamanders are one of the only vertebrates that can regenerate limbs. So if a salamander loses its arm, it'll just grow it back, which is pretty crazy. And I've found 2 different salamanders, both 3 line salamanders, where they have injured their limb, and instead of healing it, they've grown another one. So there will be like 2 hands
Oh,
where there should
wow.
be one.
That's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
ridiculous. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
so
crazy.
Jasmine clarified and said, I found the one that was dried up and it moved a little still. I guess I mean dried out. So if they
Okay,
get really
so if you
dehydrated.
find, I mean, any amphibian that's dehydrated, give it some water. And obviously that's the first step. And make sure you're using dechlorinated water, because chlorine can be harmful to amphibians. So like, don't use tap water, but like dechlorinated like water from a water bottle, that'll be perfect. So.
Oh, okay, good to know. Let's see. So we've got another question. Darlene wants to know, are there spade toe toads in the San Francisco Bay Area? Do you know anything about California newt toxins? Is it toxic for people and pets? And how do you attract frogs and toads? So quite a few questions there.
Okay, so we'll do that one at a time. First off, I'm not too well versed with the California herps. I think there would be spadefoot toads there. There's an easy way to find that out. Look up on iNaturalist and see if there's any around you. And the second question was newts being harmful, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so rough skin newts, which those are, I guess they get into Northern California, but they're in Oregon and Washington, and those are deadly. Like, if you get those toxins ingested, it can be really bad. Most newts, I don't think that's quite the case. There's a lot of different newt species, but I know rough skin newts are they can be bad.
Wow. Okay, I would never even thought of that. with, I mean, even just like handling them? Would you worried about
Yeah,
that?
don't handle it and then bite your nails or something. So
Okay, good to know.
I mean, handling should be fine. It's just ingesting. So you never, if you do happen to handle something like that, make sure you thoroughly wash your hands. And I mean, the best idea is probably not to handle it. So
Yeah. It's probably a good rule of thumb with any herps, wash your hands after handling.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, and the other question was, do you know any puddling species?
puddling species. A lot of amphibians will lay in puddles. I've found spotted salamanders nesting in tire ruts, like where they filled up with water. Maybe salamanders, lots of different things will do that. Amphibians, they'll pick water a lot of the times. If there's water, they'll lay in it. I mean, my grandpa, he got a little kiddie pool and he put some plants in it and filled it up with water. And he did that probably 7 years ago, and he hasn't touched it since. And it's now its own sustaining ecosystem. And there's tons of frogs in it, like a tiny little kiddie pool. And frogs come, they lay eggs in it all the time. And yeah. And if you want to do something like that, it's really not hard. Just set up a little pool, fill it up with water, put some aquatic plants in it, and you'll have frogs in no time.
That's amazing. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, we used to have a pool that we'd pull up in summer, and every time in spring we'd go and look, and there'd just be in just the puddles on the folded up pool material, there'd be tons of Pacific tree frog eggs. So we'd have to go and relocate those into buckets and stuff and get them all established.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I've heard some things. Since I found you on Instagram, I followed a bunch of other herpetologists, and something that I've seen is people laying out like big flat pieces of like plywood.
yeah,
I forget what they call it, but like to kind of create habitat that they can go back and check.
yeah. Artificial cover boards. We use a lot of that. You can do boards, tin, tar paper, and each different type of cover is good for different things. Like tin is really good for large snakes, while boards can be really good for small fossorial snakes. And it also really matters like where you put it. Like if you put a big board right on the edge of a swamp, you're going to get a whole different array of herps than you would if you put it in completely different habitat. So
Yeah. And you're in like coastal South Carolina, right?
yeah, Charleston.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Yeah, okay. It's too bad I was in such a like short like time frame when I was there in May because I would have loved to met up with you and like gone
I was
herping.
in Kansas when you came through.
Oh, that's too bad. Oh well, another time. I've got some friends out there now, so I'm hoping I get another invite. But yeah, I mean, what a cool ecosystem for herps there because like the thing that really caught my eye was you have those amazing salt marshes, and then you just go right into like oak woodland and just like marshy areas, and it's just such a like ecologically diverse area in such short spaces. It must be so cool for like herping,
Oh yeah,
birding, anything.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got another question. What could you share from observations or conversations from your mentors surrounding the effects of climate change on herps?
Ooh. Hmm. I don't know if I can talk on that one. I don't know too terribly much about the effects of. That's something I should know. I definitely should know more about that. Um, I'm more into the ecology of the herps. I don't know too much about the effects of climate change on. That's it's definitely a an issue for amphibians, especially like out in the desert,
Yeah.
in places that they just don't get water much anymore.
Well, one
Yeah,
thing
I
I've
don't
heard
know how much I. What was that?
Oh, one thing I've heard, I used to be in environmental policy, and they talked about amphibians being a great indicator species for maybe not climate change, but for like environmental toxicology, since they're
Mhm.
so like porous,
Yeah,
with their skin and their like exchange systems, that whenever something's wrong with the ecosystem with a pollutant, they're the first thing to show signs of it.
yeah. I know one thing. Turtles' eggs, they're temperature dependent.
Oh,
So
right.
if I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but if it's a certain temperature, all the eggs are going to be female, and if it's a certain temperature, all the eggs are going to be male. So climate change can definitely influence. if there's a ton of females in the population versus a ton of males.
Yeah, and you've got nesting sea turtles right now, or soon.
Yeah,
I've been seeing a
I'm
lot of
going out
pictures of that.
again tonight to go
Oh,
look for
nice.
those.
Is that
I,
for the
I live about
loggerheads?
3 minutes from the beach, so
Oh, lucky.
just gotta run up there and walk the beach. And sometimes I find one, sometimes I get just a nice, pleasant nighttime beach walk.
That's awesome. Yeah. Let's see. No more new questions. I had one. So you may have noticed I've got the soft shell turtle on my shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there was an interesting thing that happened about 250 years ago where there's a great account from Charleston naturalist Alexander Garden, who someone gifted him a soft shell turtle, and his kids and one of the neighbor kids were trying to find out how to like feed it in captivity. And I don't know if the animal was just so stressed out because I'm guessing the conditions for keeping a turtle in the 18th century weren't great, but the thing died and they ended up doing like some dissection and creating some scientific illustration to send off to a journal in London. That was very well received, but apparently the kids were very distressed that the turtle passed away from not eating or stress. So, are those difficult to keep in captivity, or are they pretty hardy?
I think they can be pretty easy. They just have to be kept under the right conditions. You have to have like a pretty large tank.
Mm,
They're swimming turtles, so they can't be restricted to a small area. They have to have a good bit of area to swim around. I do know people with captive soft shells. Um, and then in like if you build like a big pond, they're gonna thrive. Like if you put
nice.
a soft shell in a small pond with a bunch of fish, I mean they're gonna dominate that pond pretty fast, and then you'll slowly start seeing your number of fish go down.
Yeah, so you got a question. What species of turtles are hatching near you?
Uh, I mean, all the turtles that we have here. I'm currently incubating some mud turtle eggs. My neighbor found in his yard. I don't know if a raccoon or something dug them up, but they were just sitting on the ground in his yard. So I went over there and got them, and I'm incubating those. I incubated some cooter eggs last year, some slider eggs. Um, right now, sea turtles are hatching. Tomorrow morning, I'm driving to a beach that has, they've gotten 400 sea turtle nests this year.
Oh, that's
And we're going to,
amazing.
yeah, and they're starting to hatch out. So we're going to go look for hatchling sea turtles tomorrow. And that'd be my first time seeing that. So I'm real
Yeah,
excited.
definitely post pictures. So do you have
Oh,
all the
oh,
species
I
of
will.
like sea turtles there? Do you have the leatherbacks, the
They,
um
they're not common.
okay.
But they do come through.
That's the only
I've
one
never
that we
seen
have
one.
on the West Coast.
What was
Or at
that?
least that's the only one that we get this far up on the West Coast and very sporadically. But
You've seen leatherbacks though?
I've seen them in Monterey. I haven't seen any in Washington. I don't know if they come up that far, but yeah. Apparently there's some in Southern California that I was hoping to see, but yeah.
There's freshwater loggerhead sea turtles in Southern California.
Really?
Uh,
Huh.
yeah, I don't know exactly where, but there's apparently one river that they go up, and it's like it's not a pristine river at all. Like I've seen pictures of it. A, it's trashed, and there's just like tons of sea turtles in this like horrible looking habitat.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nature finds a way.
Let's see. What else can we go through? Well, if we want to go back through some of those slides and maybe
Yeah,
we can
I
just
was about to
see if
say, are
people
there
have
any
specific
pictures you want
questions about any of these animals.
to just kind of scroll through?
Yeah. And let's see if we can get into some of like how we could nature journal those because I mean, a lot of times when people who aren't like looking to catch herps in the field, usually when I see something, it's like I see it for a minute and then it's gone. With
Mhm.
the exception of that alligator in Monk's Corner that just
Yeah.
wanted to hang out. It's a very accommodating reptile.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was at Mepkin Abbey, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, that rainbow snake was about a mile from there.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
That's really neat. Let's see. So, wait, was that with the eel in that picture there that they
That's an
ate, or is that a
amphibian.
salamander?
It's a
I'm sorry.
salamander. It's the longest salamander in the U.S. They get almost 4 feet long. Um,
That's
yeah, it's
whoa.
an amphibian.
Okay. Let's see. So then in that case, if you want to skip forward a few till I can find a snake that's got a good reference picture. Oh wait, okay, hang on. Someone asks, oh, actually, that's my mother. Kate, didn't you care for barking frogs? No, I did not. Those were, I forget what kind of toads they were. They were the like red and green toads that you can get at the pet store. They did make a lot of noise though. Um,
Fire?
yeah, fire toads. Yeah, so that's fun. All right, so for drawing snakes, I think would be kind of interesting is to look at that and also talk about like different things to look for as far as like identifying factors go.
Okay.
So, yeah.
For cottonmouths? Or just like, is there a certain snake or something you want me to show?
Actually, it'd be really cool to talk about ways to identify like venomous versus non-venomous snakes.
Okay.
If you got
Um,
that, because I think that's a really good one for people to know just like off the top of their heads.
so there's a lot of like rules out there, like, oh, a triangle head, venomous, elliptical eyelid, or pupil, venomous. There's exceptions to every single one of those rules. You hear the red on yellow, kill a fellow, red on black, friend of Jack. Um, yes, that's true, but only in the eastern United States, and even then, there can be aberrancies, where let's say a harmless scarlet king snake might look just like a coral snake, might have the pattern flipped. Um, for venomous, most pit vipers or all pit vipers do have triangle heads, but there are also non-venomous snakes that also have triangle heads, like banded water snakes, and even rat snakes will flatten their head and look triangular.
Yeah.
Uh, so
So
the
then,
best way to learn venomous snakes is just to get familiar with what venomous snakes are in your area and get familiar with their pattern. Um, what was that?
oh, so with that triangle head, so I'm getting some illustration stuff on the YouTube because I've got your panel open on one and then I've got my notebook open on the other. So for the triangle head, do you have the two venom sacs that are like built into the cheek there? And that's what gives it that like triangle head look?
Mhm. That's it, yeah. And so the non-venomous snakes that have the triangle head, they're not always triangular. They can be rounded. Um, and I should have a photo for that. That would have been a good one to put in here. Um, but like a water snake, if you grab a water snake, 9 times out of 10, its head is going to look just like a cottonmouth. It's going to flatten its head and it's going to be like a perfect triangle. So,
That's crazy. Okay, so trying to figure out how to do this with the illustration part of it. Um, do you have any animal that you'd want to go in depth with as far as just like talking about the different features and stuff as we kind of explore how to draw that?
let's see.
Got one that's like a
I'll
good
just
like
show
full body that would
Okay, yeah.
do
We'll do the
pretty well.
sunglasses. And do you want me to like make it full screen
That
where
would
it's
be
just the same?
awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Let me- Didn't work. Hold on.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Let's see.
Does that work? Cool. So
That's
yeah,
looking
this
great.
is actually my favorite herp, the slender glass lizard. That's the biggest one I've ever found. That individual is exactly 36 inches long, 3 feet. And a lizard being 3 feet long, like that's pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
that's insane. I didn't know we had anything like that just
Yeah,
running around the
they
United States.
I think the record is 41 inches. And
Okay.
that a lizard that long is crazy. And a lot of the times they'll be like they'll look huge. Their heads will be huge, but their tail will be cut short. Because his tail starts right here. So here on is all
Wow. So
tail.
all his organs and stuff are just in that front half
Yeah,
of the
all
body?
his organs are right here,
That's
and so
insane.
the rest of it is just tail. And all of this can break.
Wow. So does he just have sort of like the I know they're talking about or I've heard that snakes have like the ribs that kind of facilitate some of their movement
Mhm.
um all the way down. Do they have that or do they just or can they regrow that?
So they don't have ribs down here because this again, there's no there's I think their spinal cord runs all the way down, but they
Okay.
don't have the ribs would end here. And they can break their spinal cord, and that's how they break their tail.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I had a crested gecko as a kid that dropped his tail because he got distressed by something. But do they do that when distressed, or just if something's like eating it?
but yeah, when they're distressed, and they can't just like pop it off. It has to, like, if you grab one, what it'll try and do, it'll wrap its tail around you and try and break its tail off on you.
Whoa.
And so whenever I like catch a glass lizard, you have to be really careful with how you handle them, or you'll just break their tail off. So for the most part, like I tell people, just don't pick them up. Like it's not going to be good for the lizard at all, and it probably will break its tail off.
Oh, that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in that case, let's start drawing some herps. So I think the first thing I'm looking at for that is just how to get that basic shape in. And so for blocking that in, um, let's see. Do you have the link for the YouTube?
I don't.
Oh, here, let me just get that for you really quick. Let's see. So then you can see that, which would be cool. Copy link. Sorry for everyone if this is a little slow. I will get better at this eventually, but I'll just put that in the chat for you, and then you can commentate on stuff as it gets drawn on there. Okay, so for drawing herps.
Did you send me the thing?
Yeah, it should be in chat. For the Zoom.
I see.
Did that pop up? Okay, great. Yeah. So the club that, or group that I'm doing this with is the Nature Journal Club with commentate on. Oh, here we go. Now we're getting the double feedback.
Yeah, hold on. I'll mute it. Let me mute it. There we go. Sorry.
Perfect. Yeah, so basically, like, it's a nature journaling group that's, like, loosely scientific illustration, but more about, like, recording citizen science and observation through, like, visual and sort of artistic STEM combination type stuff. And it's been really neat because you get all these people who are really interested in the science, then create these personal logs of, like, their local ecology, and it's just really fun because everyone has these books that record like their experiences in nature. And I mean, right now it's herping season for snakes and stuff, especially on the west coast. All the garters are out right now. So for the art part, what I'm basically looking to do is just get all those outside curves and be very general about it and really look at like the negative space in the beginning, and that tail's more open. The other thing that's useful, like especially with being able to chat with you, is what stuff is going to be really important to capture to identify that snake later. Because a lot of us, we don't carry the field guides or don't necessarily have access to iNaturalist while we're out hiking due to like internet connection or whatnot. And so being able to know what features are really going to help us identify the reptile is really useful. So what kind of stuff do you look for just for like your beginning herpetologist of like how to make quick IDs?
So for the slender glass lizard, the one way you can, the two common species of glass lizards are slender and eastern. The other two are like really hard to find. Here in South Carolina, down in Florida, it's a little different. But here, those are the two that are most commonly found. And the way you can differentiate those two, you can look. There's this little groove that runs down the length of the body, and on slender glass lizards, there's pattern below that. And on eastern glass lizards, as you can see in the first slide, there's no pattern below that groove. So that's the way you can differentiate those two. Were you talking more of in like a general sense?
Yeah, just kind of in general. Like, I mean, if we're just going between like snakes and legless lizards, like if something slithers past you, what's the first thing that like you would look at to see like, okay, that's definitely not a snake?
Glass lizards are they like flail around when they move. Like I've literally seen glass lizards come completely off the ground because they're moving so fast. They'll just like flail and they'll like come off the ground. It's really funny to watch. They're super goofy when they're moving.
Like go airborne?
What was that?
Like kind of go airborne or
Yeah,
just...
I've literally seen them go airborne. Like if you walk up to one, they'll be completely still, and then just suddenly they'll just turn on and just like freak out.
Oh, that's so strange.
And snakes, for the most part, will just slither. They won't do anything like that.
They're not quite so dramatic.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. So I'm trying to figure out how to learn how to like look at that reference image. We've got this great instructor who is currently traveling, John Muir Laws, who kind of started this, and he's so amazing at just like going through and instructing people and drawing things like just on a dime. So we're trying to figure out how to do that while he's gone, but yeah. Trying to think what else would be useful for people to know. What about like looking at turtles and differentiating like different families of turtles?
So the turtle families, they're fairly similar. So like the pseudomys, and trichomes are in. Oh, I'm completely blank. I should know this. Why am I blanking on the family name? Well, they're in one family together. It'll come to me as soon as I move to the next topic. And then there's Canestronidae, which are the small turtles, the musk turtles, mud turtles, and those are very distinctive. They're really small. They have little heads. There's ones in the springs that do have big heads, and they're megacephalic from just like the alligator snapping turtles from the amount of clams and mollusks they eat. Let's see, there's box turtles. Those are the terrestrial turtles. We have 4 species of those in the United States: the Florida box turtle, eastern box turtle, ornate box turtle, and then the desert box turtle. Oh, I'm missing one. There's a 5th one, the 3-toed box turtle. So.
Let's see. I'm gonna start this one over again because, yeah. Do you have pictures of all those turtles that we can go through? Because that might be kind of fun to do, just to make like a little tree of the different like types
I'm gonna
of brief
turn
IDs.
screen sharing off just for 1 second.
No worries.
So I can.
Okay.
And then let me go find some photos.
Put that.
All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I have a folder with just all my turtle pictures.
Okay.
I'm just gonna share my screen
That
and just kind of
sounds
scroll
perfect.
through them.
Yeah, just give us a bunch of reference pictures.
Yeah,
Just
and
get more light on this.
not all of them are 10 out of 10 photos. So
No worries.
Don't expect god tier pictures here.
That's great. I mean, anything that can kind of just like help us see like the differences and oh, whoa, okay, who's that?
Okay, that's an indigo snake. That's what you're seeing, right? The big black snake.
Yes.
Yeah,
Trying to
so that's
see
an
it showing
eastern
up
indigo
there.
snake. It's the largest snake in the United States. It can reach up to 8 feet long. And one crazy cool thing about them is they eat rattlesnakes.
They eat rattlesnakes.
And they're not.
That's a
immune
great one to just
venom.
drop into the conversation. Yeah, casually. They eat rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
How does one eat a rattlesnake without getting?
So they're not immune to venom. King snakes
Okay.
are. King snakes can eat venomous snakes because they're immune to venom. Indigo snakes can eat venomous snakes solely because they can just overpower them. They're really smart animals, and they always target the head. So if they'll come up to the rattlesnake and they will bite its head and just crush its head. They're insane animals. And there only found in like the sandhills of South Georgia, Florida, and then a tiny bit of Alabama. They were extirpated completely from Alabama and then reintroduced last year or 2 years ago. So they are finally back.
Huh. Are there any herps that have gone extinct in North America? And
There
like
are.
since human or European contact?
Yeah, there's a species of salamander. I can't remember the name of it. It's one of the endemics to a mountain, I think in Virginia. Um, and that one's extinct. There's some that are almost there, and it's sad to say that. There's the frosted flatwood salamanders, and they're on their way out. There's conservation trying to keep that from happening, but I mean we can only do so much. And I should have said this when the climate change question came. That's one species that is being affected by climate change. It gets hot, and those salamanders just won't be able to survive eventually.
Yeah, that and drought. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I saw in your profile on Instagram you had a whole link to like a conservation thing about preserving wetlands and for herps specifically. So yeah, hopefully we can get more of that going. All right, let's see some turtles.
All right. Why did this open over here? All right, we'll just start here. That's a loggerhead musk turtle. These are found in the springs in Florida. These are the ones that are megacephalic.
Yeah.
So
Here, I'm gonna make him bigger.
they get huge heads.
Oh wow. Okay, so you got a. Is
I
that
do,
the skull
yeah.
from that?
That's a different turtle. This is a loggerhead sea turtle skull.
Okay, yeah, that checks out.
And these are illegal to have, but this was obtained before they were on the endangered species list.
Right.
My grandpa found that in the 60s, so it's legally obtained.
Wow.
More pictures of that. There's a Florida softshell turtle and a yellow-bellied slider. There are not supposed to be yellow-bellied sliders in the Florida Springs, so all the ones down there are released pets. So whenever we find a slider there, we take them out of the population. And since we're doing these surveys with a ton of turtle nerds, it's not hard to find a home for them.
Oh, that's great. I was about to ask what happened to those, and I was a little worried.
The
Okay, is
ones
there
with
any way we
turtle,
could
and
change
then-
the view on Zoom so we can just get a bigger look at that main screen? I think we can pin that somehow. Oh, look at that. So is that the Florida softshell?
That is, yeah. That's a Florida softshell turtle caught in one of the springs.
Okay, so that's definitely the one in the illustrations that I've seen. Yeah, what's the range on those?
Florida soft-shells get up to South Carolina.
Okay.
They don't go farther north though. So we in South Carolina have spiny and Florida soft-shells. Floridas are just really in the low country. They don't come. They don't go north of Charleston at all.
Okay.
So, and I think they go a little farther west, maybe into Mississippi.
Yeah. Do you have a good picture of the softshell turtle where we could get a good close-up view and maybe do some drawing of that?
Of a soft-shell?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see what I got. There you go. Is that good?
Oh, yes, that's perfect. And then if you just like zoom in on that a little bit so you can fill up the screen now for good reference. Okay, here we go. So, look at that. So is that a fairly young one? That doesn't have the egg tooth, does it?
Oh,
Oops.
I don't know what just happened.
Who knows? Anyways, I'll start blocking in some basic stuff for that.
No, it does not have the egg tooth. And let me just real quick. Oh, I guess I don't. That's the one here. Yeah. There you go. Okay. Cool. But yeah, that one doesn't have the egg tooth. That's probably a 2 to 3 year old turtle.
And how big
He's
is
only
that one?
this big. Yeah, not big at all. But we caught one that. Why is my?
I don't know. Okay, so for drawing that, I'm gonna start with blocking in that shell. Also, I love that soft-shell turtles get tattoos. That's hilarious. I would have never guessed that. I mean, it makes total sense. And do those last a long time, like for the turtle's lifetime, or do they have
So
to
the
be
tattoo
reapplied?
will actually fade fairly quick. And what you can do, you turn it over and you rub the shell, and because when you tattoo it, like kills a little bit of the tissue there.
Right.
When you do that, when you rub it, the number will show up perfectly. Like there's going to be no ink there, but it just shows up because the tissue there is dead, and when you rub it, it brings the blood up from the other, from the healthy tissue. So
Oh, that's wild.
yeah.
So if these guys, do you use the same technique of netting these guys with that seam net?
No, so all the spring surveys are done with snorkeling. So you just hop in the water and you chase them down. You use fins to build up speed, and you need them for the soft shells. I've seen where there have been like 10 people chasing one soft shell turtle, like full speed swimming after this thing, and it just will cruise past them.
I would love to watch that. I bet that'd make a
Yeah.
really good video.
hmm Yeah, it's really funny because it'll be like a bunch of like really trained swimmers just getting their butts whooped by a turtle.
Yeah, so do you just get that, well, do you get people volunteering just from like herpetology classes or local universities, or what's the volunteer pool look like? 'Cause that must be an interesting crowd of like people who get called to wrangle gators and snorkel after turtles.
Yeah, there's a people from a ton of different backgrounds. There's the people who are actually in herpetology who do herp stuff, and then there's the people who just think turtles are awesome. Um, like the one of the people who comes every year, he's a plumber, and he just thinks turtles are awesome. So he comes and helps out with the turtle surveys.
Oh, that's so
Um,
cool.
yeah.
So then how would people get into doing something like that?
Um, so there's two groups that do these in Florida. There's the Santa Fe River Project and the North American Freshwater Turtle Research Group. I got in because a buddy of mine is in the group, and he invited me. And then I kind of became part of the group through that. Um, but I mean, the best way to get involved with stuff like this is make connections. Go to herp meetings. Go to I'm everywhere has some sort of herp society or park or something. In South Carolina, we have SC Park, and they do field trips a couple times a month. And we've had them out at my grandpa's property, and we've had groups of anywhere from 10 to 30 people come out, and again, from all different backgrounds. Some people, this is their first time ever stepping in the woods, and we're showing them herps for the first time, and you get a whole mixed bag of people in these groups, and you can build connections really easily that way.
So for your own education, are you, I assume you're planning on going into some sort of wildlife and herp-based field of study.
Yeah,
Are you in undergraduate or?
I'm not. No, I'm graduated high school last year,
Well,
and I'm
congratulations.
taking a gap year. I'm not
Nice.
really sure what's next. So
Yeah, I wish more people would do that because it sounds like you're really kind of making some connections with like programs and stuff and figuring out what it is you want to do. So that sounds like it's gonna be great. But I imagine whatever you do, herps are gonna be in your future.
absolutely. Yeah, I can't imagine a future without herbs.
Imagine, no, do you have a bunch of herps in your house, or do you tend to keep them
I
outside in
did.
the
Yeah,
wild?
I got two snakes, tortoise, salamander, and then those turtle eggs. That's all the herbs I have right now. But it's kind of a steady flow. Sometimes I
I
have
bet.
something for a couple weeks. Sometimes.
Are you the guy that people call when
I'm
something turns
definitely
up?
the guy people
Yeah,
call.
yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, who knows? You can be the Steve Irwin of South Carolina. Though it sounds like with the Gator wrestling title on TV that you've already kind of achieved that. I mean,
yeah, a little
yeah.
bit.
Maybe that's what you need. You need to have like a herpetology show for American kids. I would watch it.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah. I mean, you do some educational work, right? Like just
Yeah.
volunteer?
I do little education shows. I'll bring animals to school groups and stuff like that, and teach people about herbs. And I mean, education's so important, and it's really easy to implement the fact that snakes are good to kids at a young age. Like, it's so much easier to convince a kid that snakes are cool than it is to convince an adult that snakes are cool.
Well, I don't think
Um,
you'd have any problem with the adults in this group because,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. We have a question. What do you feed your salamander pet?
mealworms, and he eats once every 2 weeks. And I drop a little mealworm in front of his face, and he eats it, and then he goes back in the dirt, and I'll see him again in 2 weeks.
Oh, that's crazy. Do you have a name?
He does, yeah, Alfred.
Nice. And is that a like native salamander or?
It is. It's a spotted salamander.
Okay. I know there's a lot of kind of controversy with like herps and the pet trade, especially like within Florida with people releasing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
Um, do you have any thoughts on herps as pets and some of the issues with that from like people capturing them for the wild and
I think there's a fine line of wild collection. I think some wild collection is okay. Like, if you're taking one individual from a very healthy population, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's the people who go through and find a healthy population, like, oh, this is a healthy population. I can take as many as I want. And there's people who do that. And up until 2 years ago, there was no turtle laws in South Carolina. There were in Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina. So all the turtle poachers came through South Carolina,
jeez.
and they would come through and they would like take hundreds of box turtles. And there was a guy who got caught poaching spotted turtles, which is a threatened species. They should be endangered species. Populations are not doing well. And the guy got caught with like 200 of them.
Jeez. That's
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah, because
yeah.
I remember when I
Oh,
was first looking up like the softshell turtles and stuff, I was finding them like listed online for sale.
mhm, yeah.
Yeah, is that population doing pretty well or?
Yeah, social turtles are pretty stable. And I think the ones that you do see for sale, for the most part, should be captive bred. And I think all captive bred herps, I'm totally okay with that. Like, if you want to captive breed any herp you want, keep it. But
Nice.
don't go poaching them from the wild, you know? And there are circumstances that's okay.
Yeah.
All my animals are captive bred except for the spotted salamander. Spotted salamander came from the healthiest population I know.
Nice.
And I only have him for education. I take him on education shows. And, most people have never seen a salamander. Um,
Really? Huh.
yeah, bring out a salamander. That's the first time they've ever seen it usually. So, and I can't tell you how many people think skinks are salamanders. It's crazy. Like, little broadhead skink. I've been sent pictures so many times. Is this a salamander?
Yeah, I how often do you get sent
Oh,
pictures from people wanting to know what a herp is? Because I know I've bugged you with that a couple
yeah,
times.
no, every single day.
Nice.
Yeah, I get identification questions all the time, and I'm always happy to answer them. If anyone watching this needs help identifying a herp, feel free to send it to me on Instagram, Parker Gibbons Herpetology.
It's great. I have loved following that because you have such great field pictures. I think part of that's from just being able to be part of those research expeditions, so you get to like, you know, pick up all the herps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up catching little fence lizards in California, and I thought that was the greatest thing. Snakes were, yeah, we picked up the snakes too. We just had the rattlesnakes there, so you had to be extra careful with any.
Yeah. Hopefully you weren't picking those up.
Nope, nope, never made that mistake. Yeah, don't know if I'd be here. We did have one that came into our garden that we had to relocate, but that was a whole thing with getting it into a trash can and then driving it off to I think it was a nature preserve or the local state park, so it wouldn't be close with humans. Yeah.
Yeah, I got sent a picture a couple days ago of a copperhead, and then I told the person it was a copperhead. Like, oh, I wish I knew that before I picked it up.
Oh, jeez.
Like, oh,
And they
they
were
didn't get
okay?
yeah, they didn't get bit,
Oh
but
my god.
they picked it up. I'm like, if you don't know what a snake is,
Don't pet
don't
it. Yeah.
pick it up.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. When I was in Hilton Head, South Carolina, my friends went to a wedding and I went to go hiking. And
Should.
yeah, exactly. I wasn't going to waste a chance to go wander around in the swamp. Um, yeah, but it's kind of funny because like the Uber driver was like this guy who was very skeptical, like, "Oh God, you want to go out into the woods? Like, do you know what you're doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, stay where you can see where your feet are. Don't pet anything that has teeth. Like, I know how to survive outside." But he was a little concerned about that whole endeavor. But it was kind of funny. Yeah.
Did you see anything cool in Hilton Head?
Oh yeah. So the main thing I saw in Hilton Head was just tons and tons of birds. I got stuck in that huge thunderstorm that rolled through. I know you guys get those quite a bit, but everyone on the East
There,
Coast who I'm friends with
yeah,
was,
there's one about to come right now.
yeah. And I guess some wild weather. What was really amazing, aside from the wildlife, was watching all of the South Carolinians golfing in the middle of the thunderstorm. Like, you get a bolt of lightning that would come down, there'd be some guy standing in a field holding a metal club above his head. I'm like,
I mean,
huh,
yeah, of course.
yeah.
I've been out tracking rattlesnakes before during a thunderstorm, and it's terrifying. And then you realize, wait, I'm holding a big metal antenna over my head. I probably should stop for a little bit.
Yeah, do you use like those they're like the poles with a hook on the end for handling snakes?
Yeah, snake hook.
Yeah, I imagine that one is a pretty good electrical conductor too.
Haven't tested that yet, but
Yeah, I hope you never do. Yeah.
I
So is
don't know. It'd be
this,
kind of a cool story. Be able to say I got struck by lightning.
I mean, if you live,
If you live, yeah.
if you live. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else I saw. Of course I saw the alligators there. I was instantly endeared with their little faces. And I mean, I feel like alligators are one of those things that you can easily enjoy as long as you're not being stupid about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So what was
Yeah.
it like alligator wrangling for the film industry?
Well, I kind of just sat on the boat all day and just looked for alligators. There
Oh, okay, so
was we
you were doing
spent
alligator prevention.
pretty much, yeah. But my title was alligator wrangler. I didn't lay my hand on a single alligator, but that was my title. I before that they filmed a couple of scenes like in the water, and so I hopped on a jet ski and made sure there were no alligators where they were filming, and just gave them the okay to get in the water. So,
Yeah, I think if you relay that story, you need to leave out the fact that you didn't handle any alligators and you just, if someone asks what you do for work, be like,
yeah,
oh yeah, I'm a
that's
herpetologist
what
and
I was
alligator wrangler for.
there.
I mean, that's totally cool. I would have been just starstruck by that. Yeah, how did you even end up on that project?
They were filming at a park that my friend's the head naturalist at, and they asked, they're like, hey, do you have any gator experts who could come? And my friend was like, I know the right guy. And
Yeah, it
so,
sounds like they got the right person for that job. That's too cool. So we've got another question. Jasmine wants to know, I've heard that salamanders are very sensitive to chemicals and oils on hands. Do you have to wear gloves to handle the salamander?
my pet salamander, I don't really handle him all that much. He's in a big tub with about 8 inches of dirt, and I don't really see him unless I am feeding him. And there's one little log that he's usually under, and I just take that log and put the mealworm in front of him, and he munches it, and I put the log back, and then I see him again in 2 weeks.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, you don't want to handle any salamanders if you've had any amphibian, frogs included, if you've had like bug spray or sunscreen on your hands, because it can damage them. So it's always good to have clean hands when you're handling something like that.
Do you have any other like general ground rules for handling herps?
Um, well, with turtles, like snapping turtles, a lot of people think you can just pick them up by their tail, and you can, but it has a risk of damaging their spine. So you don't really want to do that. The way you can hold snapping turtles, you grab their tail and then support their shell like this. And they can't bite under. But if you put your hand on top of their shell, they can definitely bite. I saw a video yesterday. She was holding a snapping turtle like this, right by her chest, and the snapper came up and bit her right on the face.
Oh no.
So if you're ever around a snapping turtle, hold it away from you.
Yeah, see, I think most people would think maybe just don't pick those up in the first place, but
Yeah, true. I
yeah.
mean, there's always circumstances one's in a road or something, you might need to help them across.
Oh, that's a good point.
So, yeah. The
Yeah.
one thing that's annoying about snapping turtles, most turtles, if they're in the road and you kind of walk up, nudge them with your feet, they'll just scurry away. Snapping turtles love to immediately get defensive. And so you walk up, they will be like, I don't care about the cars barreling towards me at 50 miles an hour. I'm going to stay right here. um, yeah, snapping turtles are kind of jerks, but
Yeah, I think they must just know that like they're one of the scariest things out there and they're not
mhm.
gonna move for you. That's too funny. Yeah, so let's see, what else can we get into? So you've done gator wrangling for film, you hoard herps in your house. How often do you go out with like not observation, like fieldwork crews?
Well, I'm out doing my own food work every single day. Like I said, I work at the preserve doing a assessment of all the herps on the property. I'm up there 4 days a week, um, just herping all day. And then I go out with the Amphibian Reptile Conservancy a good bit here in Francis Marion. That's who I did the diamondback rattlesnake telemetry with. And we do turtle trap. We don't just do rattlesnakes with them. We do turtle trapping. They do head starts for gopher frogs and southern hognose snakes. I think there's 8 target species, so there's 8 different herps that they are focusing on, and each of them are active different times of the year. So throughout the year, we're doing different things all the time.
Yeah. Okay, we got another question. Um, who preys on snapping turtles? Do they have any natural predators? Do people eat them, or are
Um,
they just kind of like the king of the river?
People do. Campbell's used to make alligator snapping turtle soup.
Like
And
Campbell's the canned soup?
yeah, like Campbell's soup.
When
They
did
made
that stop? Or has
that
it?
was in I want to say the 60s, like very long ago. And they don't do that anymore, thank God. Alligator snapping turtles probably would be extinct if that was the case. Um, I saw a photo posted in a Facebook, a local Facebook group a couple days ago of about an 8-foot alligator standing in the middle of the road with a snapping turtle in its mouth.
Oh, jeez.
So alligators will eat snapping turtles, smaller ones. They'll have a tough time with bigger turtles. So.
Yeah, it seems like one of those things that you just don't want to mess with, even if you're a
Mm-hmm.
gator.
But yeah, alligator snapping turtles, once they hit maturity, there's nothing that'll really mess with them.
That's amazing.
One other thing that'll get a common snapping turtle are otters. Otters are vicious.
They really are. If you listen to ologies, I made the mistake
Yeah,
of,
I listened to that one a
yeah,
couple days.
I was out running while I listened to that, and I think people thought something was wrong with me because I kept being, oh my god, no. So if
Oh
you
yeah,
listen to
they're
ologies,
terrible
otters,
animals.
right?
I saw a couple otters this morning when I was out fishing. Um, yeah, there was when we did some surveys in Itchituckney River in northern Florida, which is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. Uh, we found this one turtle. We caught it 2 days in a row. We catch the turtles, we mark them, do all what we need to, and then we release them. And then when we survey again the next day, sometimes we re-catch the same turtles. And this one was really easy to tell that it was a recaught turtle because right in the back of its carapace was a hole about this big from an otter. And you could see its lung, and you could see its lung like inflating.
And it
And
was just fine.
yeah, okay,
Oh
it
my
was
god.
completely healed. Other than the fact that you can just, like, if you wanted to, you could just like poke its lung.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it was terrifying. They're crazy resilient.
Yeah,
Turtles live
that's
through a lot
insane.
of stuff. So.
Also, so I know that sea turtles who feed on jellyfish like leatherbacks have those crazy mouth and throats that look like they
Yeah,
have
it's
like weird
bizarre.
flesh teeth. Do any freshwater turtles have anything like that, or they just have like that?
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah.
No, I don't think that's the case. I don't think freshwater turtles in the U.S. have teeth at all. The only exception is the egg tooth, which falls out shortly after they hatch. But they do have a beak, a very sharp beak, especially with alligator snapping turtle. Here, are you good with this photo, or can I? Are
Yeah,
you,
I'm good with this photo.
okay,
Go
I'm
ahead. You
gonna
have
let's see.
some more turtle photos to
There's
show us. I'll probably touch it up a little bit once it dries, but yeah. So with this soft shell turtle, is that the Florida or the spiny?
that was a Florida.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that's a big adult Florida softshell turtle. That's probably a 25-pound turtle right
Wait,
there.
the one in okay, no, the one before it
Yeah,
that we were
those are.
using.
It was also a Florida.
Oh, okay. So do they lose those markings as they get older?
They do. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the case with most turtles. As they get older, they'll lose their coloration. Here's the photo I'm looking for. So this is Maddie, and she caught a huge softshell turtle. And as you can see right here, it decided to give her a kiss right on the neck as she was swimming. And they have really sharp beaks, and it cut through, and she could taste the blood from outside her mouth,
Oh,
which is just
jeez. That's
yeah. And that
wow.
was yeah. She has a real gnarly scar from it. I mean, it's a pretty cool scar to have, but
Yeah.
yeah.
We've got another question. Where does the indigo snake live?
South Georgia and Florida. And then there's also the Texas indigo snake in Texas, and they go down into Mexico as well.
Okay. Do you have any good stories with like invasive herp populations? Have you done any
Uh,
work with that?
yeah, I went down to South Florida for New Year's 2 years ago, and we found a ton of cool stuff. We found two pythons. One of them was 8 feet long. Um, one of them was hit by a car and was still alive. We ended up having to put it out. And the other one, it was crossing the road in the national park, and we couldn't euthanize it because it's in the national park, and it's a terrible rule, but all life is protected in the national park, including invasive species.
Really?
Yeah, and so they won't let you
Oh,
kill a python in the park,
that's a
which
shame.
yeah, terrible. Yeah, no, it was a super bittersweet moment because we pulled up on this like 8.5 foot long snake sitting in a road, which is a sight for sore eyes. Like that's an unreal thing to see, and we just had to watch it just go back to destroying the habitat, and we couldn't do anything about it. It was
Yeah.
terrible.
And things like that, I mean, they'll eat everything. So I imagine,
Yeah. Oh, a big python will take a deer.
yeah. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
terrifying. I
Yeah,
mean, Florida is wild. I mean, the
sure
fact that we
is.
have
I'm
pythons there
going
now
back there
too
next
is.
week.
Oh, what are you doing down there?
More turtle stuff in the springs. Where I'm going to two different locations for alligator snapping turtles, and doing some snake stuff in the Panhandle, and then going down to Orlando to go swim in the springs.
That sounds awesome. Can we see
Oh yeah.
some snapping turtle pictures? Um, I think doing some like headshots of the alligator snapping turtle would be really cool. If you've
How's
got
that?
anything.
How's that
Oh,
one?
that's awesome. Okay,
So
let me.
that's the only alligator snapping turtle I've ever seen in the wild. And that's a little one. He's only
Yeah.
about this big, maybe
Here,
a
let me just
three or
blow that
four
up a
year
little
old.
so we can get a good look at that and rearrange
What's
things.
that?
Oh, I'm just trying to move stuff around so we can get a good view
Okay.
of
Do you
that.
want me to zoom in even more?
Oh,
Like
yeah, if you just get his head right in there so we can.
you can
I'm trying
kind of
to
see the
rearrange my
lure.
virtual camera so we can see him well. Look at that. Do you know what like the bite pressure that they can exert is?
Not off the top of my head. I don't know that. Um,
Yeah.
It's a
Let's see.
lot. A bite from one of those would hurt. An adult could take a hand. Like,
A
a
hand. Yeah.
they're, I mean, they're this big.
Yeah.
So, the photo I was showing of that 150 pounder, he could probably, if he wanted to, at least take a couple fingers easily.
Well, I've
So,
seen pictures or videos of people feeding them just like chicken drumsticks and they just chomp down on those. So
yeah.
that's wild. Okay. So I think the key for that would be just to like do kind of a block in situation. But yeah. Do you have people who do any sort of like nature journaling type stuff with herps in the groups you work with?
Um,
Or a
not
herp illustration?
especially no. I know people who draw herbs just like recreationally. Do you know Matt Patterson, Stone Ridge Art Studios on Instagram?
No, I don't. I'll have to give him a follow
If
once
you
I'm done
don't,
with
I
this.
recommend you follow him. He is the best herb artist in the world. like
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, he's like a realistic herb artist, and it's unreal. I highly recommend you check him out. It's Stone Ridge Art Studios.
Oh, definitely. Okay. I mean, the craziest thing about drawing herps for me is finding the time to like put in all the little scales and stuff and all the details that really sell it. Because,
Yeah,
you know, when you have a snake like those amazing mud snakes, I mean, it takes hours and hours to do all those tiny little details. And usually with like nature journaling, I tend at most spend like maybe 8 hours on a really complicated painting. And I know it would take so much longer than that
mhm,
to really capture that, and it's
yeah.
insane. Do you prefer illustrated or photographic field guides for trying to ID stuff? Because
I think
birders have
photographic, because with illustration, it shows like the your interpretation of the animal. With the photographs, it shows the animal.
okay.
And so I think those are better for field guides. But I see the pros and cons of both.
Yeah,
When illustrations, you can show, um, or I guess when with photographs, some individuals look different than the average individual. Like when I had the slide with all the cottonmouths on it, one of the cottonmouths was patternless, and that's not completely usual. They usually have a good deal of pattern on them, and that one cottonmouth had zero pattern. So there's just oddball exceptions like that.
what are some of the weirdest like out there specimens that you've come across? You talked about turtles without legs and just crazy stuff like that.
I think the most alien thing is the one I was telling you about, the salamander with 5 feet.
Oh yeah.
I do have the photo of that. Once you sketch, I can pull that up. If
Yeah, maybe just give us like another few
hold
minutes
on,
with
I'll
this
put it
one,
back
and if
up.
you can find it, that would be cool. Cause
Yeah,
yeah, that's so bizarre, and that was just probably from an injury that
yeah,
he just decided it'd
exactly.
be easier to grow a new one than.
And lizards will do that too. I've found lizards that have two tails, where the tail is broken and they sprout another one, and it'll be a lizard with a little fork tail.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah, I grew up with a lot of lizards just running around. Like we had the I forget what they're called, like the whiptails. They're these beautiful like blue and orange spotted California lizards that were just everywhere, and they were the ones that I couldn't catch. They were just too
Yeah,
fast for
whiptails
me.
are really fast. Their scientific name is Aspidicellus,
Yeah,
and I
that sounds
always like
right.
to enunciate the speedy, Aspidicellus.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
they're
that's
very
perfect.
fast.
I always love when they work sort of like a pun into some sort of
Mhm.
scientific name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see that salamander. I think I've got enough blocked in where I can kind of just work off of that. And you in the chat, just feel free to keep adding any questions and I will put them up there. But
There you go.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's insane. And so is that other hand at all functional, or is it just kind of, it looks like just one toe's kind of broken on the one that's
Um,
not in use.
yeah, I don't know how functional it is. Here's another photo of the full salamander. You can see that's the leg that has. And it's funny, when I
Huh.
took this picture, I didn't realize that it had the two legs. I took that photo, like we got it, set him up, I took the picture, and I like looked at him like, something's wrong with its foot. And I looked closely, I'm like, oh, it has two.
That's crazy.
I'd assume that the one on the top here isn't really functional. I
Yeah.
mean, they don't have like opposable limb digits like we do. So it's really just like a pad to step with. But yeah, I doubt there's any benefit to having a fifth foot, but who knows?
It looks cool, given that.
Yeah, it does look cool. Looks like an alien. Just imagine like that thing, but 6 feet long chasing you.
I mean, at least with the salamanders, I mean, they don't move too fast. I feel like if you had 6 foot long salamanders, I wouldn't be that afraid of them.
Yeah. Um,
I'd be pretty afraid if we had much bigger snapping turtles. I mean, we've got alligators, and no one in the South seems that disturbed about it, so, you know.
so
Yeah.
these aren't great photos, but they do show salamander teeth.
They have teeth?
They do. They have really sharp teeth. They're tiny, but they're sharp. Another one.
Also, one thing's kind of interesting is like salamanders have the body structure of lizards, but then they've got the life cycle of frogs. So how are those related?
How are salamanders and lizards related?
Well, I mean, are they, or are they more closely related
They're
to
not.
frogs, or
They're more closely related to frogs. Yeah, they're
okay?
both amphibians.
So did they develop that body structure that's very lizard-like
Yeah,
independently,
it's
or
just what's the word? Covalent evolution,
that? Yeah,
where
that's the
they,
one.
yeah.
Okay, good to know. Yeah,
Mhm.
I've got a guy who might come on here and chat with us about like drawing like evolutionary trees and how species kind of interact on that front.
Mhm.
It's actually the otter guy from Ologies. I've been bugging him on Instagram.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Let's see, what other cool photos do I have that I can put up? Are there any specific herps that you want to sketch that I could maybe have a photo of?
I'm not getting any requests right now, but yeah, if you've got anything you want to show us, maybe a couple of your favorites, and then we can wrap it up.
Okay.
Um,
So here's the only endangered salamander I've ever seen in the wild. This is the hickory nut gorge green salamander. And they're beautiful little guys. They're the only member of their genus on the East Coast. It's Aeneades, and that's a West Coast genus, like the arboreal salamanders.
yeah,
And
like we have the Encentinas.
yeah,
Are they
those
related to that?
are in a different genus, which is the Encentina genus. But yeah, those I would kill to see an Encentina. They're beautiful.
Well,
Do you see those
oh, I
fairly
see
frequently?
quite a few of those. So if you ever make it out to California, I'll take you herping.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. No, I see those all the time. They're great. A couple months ago, I was out in the woods up here in Washington, and I saw an Encentino was like curled up under this half rotted mushroom, like sleeping. Like, oh my god, that is adorable. Wasn't able to get a good picture, but yeah,
Last
they're
2 weekends I spent up in the mountains of northern Alabama and then northern or the mountains of North Carolina. And you walk around at night right after it rains, and there are salamanders everywhere.
that
It's
sounds
crazy.
so cool.
Like there will be like ferns, and you just like examine the ferns a little bit, and there's like 3 salamanders on each fern. It's
That's
crazy.
crazy. Well, it's
Yeah.
probably a good sign for like ecosystem health and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mother says she sees them all the time. So if you come visit in California, we will hook you up with some Encentinas
Sounds like a
and some
plan.
alligator lizards. Do you have those on the East Coast?
You don't. I have seen an alligator lizard in
Yeah.
Arizona. Um, yeah, those things are cool. They're
Right.
very closely related to our glass lizards. So if
Okay,
you
yeah,
kind
that
of
checks
look at
out.
it, yeah, you can kind of they look a lot like glass lizards, but just with legs. They're
Yeah.
in the same family, so
Yeah, I tried to befriend those quite a bit as a kid. Um, I very rarely caught them. When I did, it was a big deal. And
oh
they
yeah.
always made a point of biting me, but So, what can you do?
Yeah, my dad has become really good friends with the skinks in our yard, where he feeds them mealworms. And it's to the point he walks out front, the skinks run up to him.
Okay, that's
It's really
hilarious.
funny. And we've had like a Amazon delivery guy came up to the door one time, and we got this on the Ring doorbell, and he walks up, and a skink runs up to him, and he's
Oh
like,
no.
ah! Yeah, I freaked out, but yeah.
Yeah, wow. Well, at least he's not feeding the alligators because I feel like you might not get your package, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, that's too funny. Yeah. Okay, so I'm kind of curious, like, how did you get involved with doing all that and how you end up going on these crazy herping adventures all the time? Because I'm incredibly jealous of all of the amazing, like, trips you seem to be going on to just go look for herps.
Yeah. Well, like I said at the beginning, I got introduced to herpetology at like age 2.
Yeah.
Like my grandpa was bringing, there's a picture of me. I don't know how old I am, but me sitting in my grandpa's lap holding a little alligator. Um,
Okay,
and
that is
I was just introduced to it at such a young age, and I just fell in love with herps. And since I've been doing it my whole life, I've built a ton of connections with friends, colleagues, professors. Like if I am ever going to herp a place I've never been, I can ask a couple people and I know where to go. Or I can go meet up with somebody and stuff like that.
Is it
But yeah,
worthwhile just to kind of bug your local herpetologists and ask if they need volunteers for field work? And
yeah, yeah. I mean, everyone needs volunteers for field work. That's one thing. Field work's hard, and a lot of the time it's one or two people doing a lot of work by themselves. And if you offer help, 9 times out of 10 they will accept it. So
yeah, and those people have the permits and stuff to handle
exactly,
animals in
yeah.
ways that you normally wouldn't just as a, nature
Yeah,
enthusiast.
so all the alligator research I've had the privilege to help out on, I wouldn't have been able to do that without that. I do have a permit to handle alligators now, because the survey I'm doing covers all reptiles and amphibians. Um, and I had to use that permit last week. There was a 5 foot alligator in someone's yard. I had to take him to a nearby creek. So yeah,
Is that another
just
thing
kind of
you
fun.
just get calls for? Just
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of funny driving around with a 5 foot alligator just sitting in my front seat.
is there a picture of that?
It's on my phone.
There's got
Yeah,
to be a picture of that.
he's in a bin. He's not just like wandering in my car. I have had that happen before, but let's see.
See, I'm just envisioning. I know like people kind of like either tape them or tie them with their limbs, and then just setting that like a person in your front seat.
Well, he's taped and he's in a
Yeah,
big bin.
should have
If I
gone through
can.
a drive-through or something like that.
All right, I have a really really funny story. This isn't related to herps at all, but one time I was going to you know what cookout is? I know you don't have those where you are. It's
No,
a
I don't.
Carol. It's a fast food place. I was going to the cookout drive through, and I found here it is.
Here, wait. Let me move the screen thing so we can see. Oh, geez. How did you
You
get
know
that?
what was that?
Oh, was that the one from in the
Yeah,
bin
that was the
or?
one that was in his yard, and I
Gotcha.
let
Okay.
him go. But yeah, so I was going through the drive through, and there was a possum in the parking lot, and where the restaurant is, it's like there's no habitat, like it's in the middle of the town. So I was like, okay, I'll grab him and I'll throw him in some woods near my house. So I pull up to the drive through with him in my hand. And I asked the dude, I was like, hey, can you fry this up for me? I burst out laughing. Yeah. So.
Oh no. Wonder how often they get that request and how many people actually
Yeah.
mean it. You know?
Yeah, I'm sure I'm one of few people to bring possums through the cookout drive-through.
Yeah. Wow. That's really something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too cool. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Is there anything else you want to share, or we've been going for quite a while, so I'll probably want to let people go soon. But
Yeah.
yeah, anything about herb conservation? You know, I guess you talk
I mean,
about building habitat in your own backyard.
yeah. And if you want to get into herps, just it's not a hard thing to get into. Just go on iNaturalist, find a park that has a lot of observations, and go walk around, see what you can find. Flip some rocks. Make sure you put the rocks back. You don't want to disturb the habitat. Like for hellbenders, um, one thing that's destructive for them is rock stacking. People take the big flat rocks and they stack them and make what they think is art, but it's not art. It's habitat destruction because those big flat rocks are what they use for nesting. And so you're just taking away their nesting rocks. So
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. And would you say the same for just any sort of wetland creek area? Don't disturb the ground bedding, all that stuff.
mhm.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
yeah,
then
thank you for letting me come and talk. This was a blast.
that was so much fun. If you want to come again sometime, if we could figure out like how to do like more structured thing with like the art side of it and then go into like some weird details. I was just surprised at how many I mean, I shouldn't have been surprised at how many weird stories you have about just doing strange things with herps, but I really enjoyed those and
I
yeah.
just scratched the surface. Don't worry.
Okay, perfect. We'll have to do this again sometime because that was a total blast. Thank you
Oh, for
so
sure.
much for doing this with us. Yeah, I would love to have you again. Thank you so much. That was
Yeah.
so fun.
Okay. All right. Are we ending it here?
Yeah, I think that. Oh, oops. Here we go. It looks like it says session expired. I don't know what that means. Hmm. Seems to still be working. Uh, okay, well, might as well stop it there